Phillies last night. Phillies beat the Rays in Tampa 8-4. By the way, how cool was that watching that game in that ballpark?
It was an intimate ballpark. It really, really was. It was funny because I'm watching that game, TK, before it got out of hand. And I could hear the people in the like selling popcorn and peanuts, and I was like, wow, that's something in a ballpark you never really get a chance to hear. Somebody's yelling out, get your popcorn here or get your peanuts or whatever. The beer guy? Yeah, heard the beer guy. And I was like, wow, that's different. And it seemed like everybody was right on top of the field. And I think it was like Kyle Schwarber's at first at bat, he hit somebody in the other dugout because they were so close. The dugout was so close. So I thought that was pretty cool. A little dangerous, but pretty cool. No. And he apologized. And then he hit a home run.
There you go.
That was
Perfect.
pretty cool.
It was a cool environment last night. As the Phillies win, they beat the Rays 8-4. Zach Wheeler really good. Gave up one home run. Other than that, was tremendous. The offense, they did their job. They were able to score a lot of runs. Nick Castellanos, the big blow, a 3-run homer to really put the game out of reach. And the bullpen did their job after Wheeler went out. And here we sit with the Phillies, Hugh. And they've won 7 of their last 9. They seem to have stabilized after what was a bad week a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. They're 20-15, 2 games back of the Mets. And here's where I am with the Phillies at this point. I think we've been too hard on them to start the year. I think when we look at this team, when we look at where they are, I mean, they're not in a bad spot. You're 20-15. You're 2 games out of the division race. This is a good baseball team. I think they've shown that at this point at least. Mm-hmm. And I think when we look at the Phillies, our expectations in some ways have been unrealistic. I think they've been too high. I think we've been too difficult on them for what has been, honestly, a pretty good start here. And I think we kind of overreacted to a bad series. Series in New York, that was ugly. They got swept by the Mets. They didn't look good. But overall, I think we've been hard on the Phillies, too hard on the Phillies. Where do you fall on that?
No, not too hard. I mean, this is baseball, man. We pay a ton of money. Well, the people that pay a ton of money to go to the games, you're allowed to feel the way that you feel. And let's be honest, most fans, they don't really know how, and this is no disrespect, but they don't know how this thing works. They look at the fact that, you have these owners and individuals that have a ton of money, and they have the power to go out and get the players to make this team better. They're rooting for guys who, in their minds, all they're doing is playing a game. Most fans, some fans understand it, but most fans really don't get it, and they're not supposed to. I don't expect them to, because they look at it like, they work a hard 9-to-5 job, and your job as a professional athlete is to go out there and play a sport. And that's just the reality of it. So when fans look at that, and they look at the money that you're making, and you're in a slump, or all this other stuff that's going, they ain't trying to hear all that. So I don't think that the fans are off base for feeling the way that they feel about guys going out there doing what they're doing.
Fair enough. And if we want to get in, 215-592-9494 is how you do so. Have we been too hard on the Phillies to start the year? And I think we have. And here's exactly why I think that way, Hugh. I mean, we look at what happened last season, and I think the Phillies started very similarly. They were 8-8 through 16 games. Mm-hmm. We know how it ended, but they did start 45-20. They really haven't started great any of the last few years, even the years they had some postseason success. And I think the reason why we're too hard on them is I think there's a carryover effect from last year in the postseason.
No question.
And I understand that. I feel that to a degree, too. We're all fans. And it's impossible to watch this team with a lot of the same players and not to think back at that to a degree. But at some point, I think if we're going to truly move past it, and we're going to really fairly evaluate this team, I don't think we can allow what happened at the end of last year to color every opinion this year. And I feel like that's what's happened a lot.
Oh, no, it's definitely happening. And to get people to try to understand that, I think is kind of tough, because we go as this team goes. And last year, going into that season, I can remember vividly how this team, their mantra was, we're trying to make it to the World Series. We're trying to do this. We're trying to do that. We're trying to get off to a good start. And to their credit, they did mostly everything that they set out to do, except win the World Series. And then the way that they went out in the postseason gave us all pause. It was like this team, and you know what the unfortunate thing is as fans, we saw it, we just didn't want to believe it, because we saw it in the Mets series when they were overseas, and we saw them starting to lose a bit of momentum. And as the season progressed, we just kind of let it go. So fans saw how they ended the season, and they were disappointed. So now coming into this season, They started it with a little trepidation. They were not as boisterous and loud about what they wanted to accomplish this year as they were last year. So we look at that and the fact that they didn't make any moves, and we're feeling some kind of way about that. So I don't have a problem with the way the fans are feeling right now. I really don't.
Yeah, and if you want to get in 215-592-9494, we've been too hard on the Phillies to start the year, and I think we have, and a big part of it is I think this team, they deserve to be viewed separately. I think criticism for poor play is fair, but I'll acknowledge, even myself, that we've overreacted a little bit. In the end, they've had one really bad series this year. The Mets series was ugly. They got swept in New York, and obviously that brings back the memories from last year even more because that's obviously the team you lost to. But aside from that series, they've been a really good team. I think they're getting better. The bullpen, I'm not totally sold on the bullpen. I feel a heck of a lot better about it than I did a week or two ago. The offense is kind of coming around. Bryce Harper is getting hotter, and this is the thing. They're 20-15 through 35 games. Bryce Harper hasn't really even been getting going yet. I mean, you would imagine, and this is the time that he typically does get hot. Last year, his numbers around this time were pretty much identical. He had a big May and a big June, and that led to him being the starting first baseman in the All-Star game. And I look at this team, and I just feel like we can't just view everything through the lens of last year, because I think it's not fair to exactly the way they're playing.
Life isn't fair, Tom. Tom. Life is not fair. It's never going to be that way. I think a lot of fans, when they look at this, they're emotionally invested, and they don't want to have their heart broken. That's basically what it is. They do not want to have their heart broken. They don't feel like, dealing with the same heartaches that they had last year with this offense being as anemic as it is in the postseason. So that's basically what we're dealing with. This is a road we've been down before, and it doesn't help when you have the players that are out there and they're not as sure about what they want to do. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit of everything. So as far as the fans go, hey man, feel the way you feel, because it's on the guys that are out there playing to make you feel differently.
Yeah. And that's what this team's fighting. I think they are fighting more of an uphill battle because of what happened last year, and they're not getting the same benefit of the doubt. But you want to get in 215-592-9494. Do you think we've been too hard on the Phillies to start this year?
How much money they make?
Before we go to the phones, Kyle Quinn producing the show today. Hey. What do you think, Kyle? I'm sure you're a guy who thinks we've been too hard on the Phillies.
Oh, well, so look, I took the pledge at the beginning of the season. I don't know if you're aware of what
the accountability pledge. I've heard
we
it.
took the pledge.
Well, no, Hugh didn't take it seriously.
I took it seriously.
Hugh said it, just kind of went through the motions, did not take it seriously. So as a guy that took the pledge, I think it's totally okay if people want to be reactionary, be hard on the Phillies when they go through the hot streaks and the cold streaks, stuff like that. Like, that's fine. Do I necessarily agree with some of the sentiment that I'm hearing about, like, I think a lot of people think that the Phillies right now are just sort of a middling team, more like
going through the motions?
What?
Going through the motions?
The Phillies?
I mean, middling going through the motions.
No, well, okay, sure. I just, so I guess there's two sides to this. Like, there's the people who think that they could be more like the team we saw at the beginning of last year, and then there's more of what we saw in September and in the postseason. Like, this is just who they are. It's who they've been at the end of every season. I see a lot more of the team that we saw at the beginning of last year, at least, than I do the team that we saw at the end of last year. Like, I think the Phillies have gotten to a point where they're underrated by some fans. Like, they're a damn good baseball team. They are 20-15 without really the team as a whole playing their best baseball. And now some areas of the team, you could say they're like, you don't expect them to play much better. Like the bullpen, they probably need a little bit of help. We do have the trade deadline for that. But I think the point you made, Tom, was the best one, that the Phillies are 20-15 right now without Bryce Harper, their best player and one of the best players in baseball at his peak when he's really going, playing to his capabilities. So, like, I think there's a lot more reasons to be excited about this team and feel good about them getting better as the season goes on than I think the people who just think that they are more like the team at the end of last year should readjust what they think about the team a little bit.
I look at it like this. Do you feel that it's safe to say that as good as this team is and the trajectory that they've been on in the last couple of years, they've fallen short? Is that a safe assessment?
Oh, absolutely. No question about it.
And I think that's where people are a little bit upset because, to Kyle's point, we've been down this road before, especially when you talk about last year and you talk about the goals that you set for yourself in order to get to the World Series. And the way it ended is what people remember, because you went out with a whimper. Like, you went out to a team that you handled in Europe and then they just beat the brakes off of you. They were just a better team.
But I think at some point, do we have to stop looking at last year and evaluating everything? Because this is a different season than last year.
I understand
it's a different team.
And I get that, but it's the same cast of characters. You set out like this is where I think fans are coming from. When I first got here, and I'm just going from when I got here. You know, you have the owner talking about opening up the coffers. No money is too much money. I'm spend like what do you say, Jermaine Dupri, money ain't a thing. I'm gonna spend money and we're gonna get the players that we need, and all of a sudden.
John Middleton and Jermaine Dupri.
Yeah.
One and the same.
So we have the season that we had last year. And it was just like it was the year we played Arizona. The bats went cold. So now you have an off season where one of the biggest names out there. I get the money, but this is where I think the fans are kind of upset because you the one that said money didn't make no difference. Money ain't a thing, and you didn't even make a play for Juan Soto. So now, and you try to trade Alec Bohm, and that doesn't work. And then you run it back. Yeah. You run it right back.
I guess, the Phillies can't right the wrongs of the last few Octobers right now in May.
Oh, I can't believe you up here being Major League buddies.
What I'm saying is, they can't go out
See, this is what he ain't take the players for real. I took
yes,
the players.
I get out of here. I'm saying the Phillies can't win the World Series right now. So,
I know that.
There's a sentiment out there. It's like, wake me up in October. Like, all right, well, then what do you want us to do? Like, we can't just fast forward to October. It's May. This is the Phillies team we have right now.
Right, you can watch with your arms folded and wait and look at the calendar.
That's a grumpy way to watch, you. I'm just envisioning Hugh sitting at home on his couch with his arms folded, a grouchy look on his face. What are they going to do in October?
I am a man of the people. I am doing this for the people. And this is what this is how I feel
today.
This is how I feel the fans feel. I'm just trying to channel the Phillies fans.
And I don't think you're wrong. You're not wrong at all. I felt that way at some point, too. I'm just at the point where, hey, we're in May at this stage.
Major League buddies.
I think we got to move beyond. I think we got to move beyond it. I think we got to move beyond last year.
You know what happened?
Judge this team fairly on what they're doing this season, Hugh.
See, now y'all about to make me the drunk uncle at the barbecue. Y'all feeling good because we had an offensive explosion last night, correct? Alec Bohm hit a home run.
No,
in a minor league ballpark.
No, hold on.
Hey, that minor league ballpark was cool.
But they played pretty well the majority of the season. They had a bad stretch for a week.
I'm not saying they didn't, but it's funny to me, and I would wonder how Joe would act with Hughes. He'd probably be the same way. It's real funny to me that all of a sudden they go to a small park and they hit the ball all around the place.
It's not that. It's still a major league ballpark.
It's not about last night?
It's not. No, it's one game. Like, they've been playing well. They won 7 of the last 9 games.
You cannot convince me that it's not about last night. Well, you and Joe both live in the moment when it comes to this team.
It's off the heels of last night, but they're in their hottest stretch of the season right now.
Major League buddies.
They beat the Cubs in a series. They beat the Diamondbacks in a series.
I'm not saying they're not hot.
But that's part of it.
Like, the sentiment changes. Like, they played in what they call it, a bandbox. What they call it?
A bandbox.
Bandbox. They played a little ass stadium.
I think you're focusing too much on the last night.
I'm just keeping it a beam.
Well, just so you know, Hugh, that Alec Bohm home run would have gone out in 7 out of 30 ballparks in Major League Baseball.
You know what?
So how about that?
You know what's funny about that, TK? Because you looked that up. You looked that up.
I saw somebody tweet it out.
Yeah,
I didn't even look it up. Yep. I just saw somebody tweet it out. I don't even know if it's correct, but I'm going to run with it.
You know what's funny? Because people were wondering, is it because it's a small park? Or is it because it was a good hit?
No,
I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't.
That's only you with your negativity.
No, I'm not being negative.
I'm
just keeping it a beam.
I guess
that's all I'm saying.
I just wonder, for fans who are sort of where Hugh's at, or where a lot of people are at, like, can the Phillies show you anything during the regular season to convince you that things will be different in October? Or are you just like, wake me up in October?
Right. And if you want to get in on that as well, you're welcome to. I cannot watch the entire season like that, just thinking about, who cares? Whatever they do now, it doesn't matter. I think we all know that they're going to have to come through in the postseason, but what they do in the regular season matters.
Like, no, it does.
Last year
agree with that.
Was not just about them having a bad week. I mean, they were pretty much a 500 team in the second half of last year. So I think the way you play in the regular season sets the habit, sets the tone for what you're going to do down the road.
I will agree with that. But here's the thing that I think of. Like, say, if I played baseball, which I never did, but, I'm a professional athlete. Say going into the season, say we in the playoffs, we lose like we did the next year. even though that's a long way away, everything that you do from the beginning of the season until you finally get to that point is like Jalen says, keep the main thing, and maintain your focus as best you possibly can. That's what this team needs to do.
Well, yeah, and Hugh, it's funny because, and I know you weren't on the 03 team, but in those years that you were in Philadelphia, there was a similar feel about those Eagles teams. Is continuing to go back to the championship game, and that was kind of the way they were viewed.
And I can tell you to a man that's the way we felt. Going into the season, the first time that we lost, I remember thinking, okay, it was our first time there. You learn from your mistakes, and then you move forward. The second time we did it, it was like, damn, what the deuce? What can we do to make this better? Because it's frustrating because you check all the boxes. So now going into that next season, that's all you're thinking about. That is all you're thinking about. But you know that the only way you can get to this point is you got to go through this gambit. You got to run this whole gambit of the season to get to that point, and you have to be on top of your game. And to your point, I see that they're playing better, but to ask this fan base, in my opinion, to believe in you after they've seen everything that's happened in the postseason, I just think that's too much to ask for. I really do.
Yeah, I hear you. And if you want to get in, 215-592-9494. Have you been too hard on the Phillies start this year? And to Kyle's point, is there anything that they can do during the regular season to make you believe in this team short of what happened last year? Because I just think as we look at this team, and if we're going to evaluate them fairly, I think we need to evaluate them on what they're doing now, not what they did last year.